each military body across the world has one overarching task, and that's to beat its competitors. And that might be the reason as to why many fairly standard pieces of army equipment have evolved to contain some pretty unique features. Make sure to stick around until the end to hear about how bats were being used as a form of bomb. You might wonder how some soldiers are able to stand with a straight back and a sharp neck for hours on end without slouching. While many of them might have had these strict requirements drilled into them from a young age, some soldiers have a slightly more necessary reason for keeping a sharp posture at all times. Chinese soldiers in particular have a way of ensuring that they're never positioned lazily, by installing pins into the back of their military uniforms. Officers of the People Paramilitary Police preparing for the Olympics are drilled on the parade ground with pins in their collars and crosses on their backs to ensure perfect posture. If they look down or alter their posture slightly, the result is more than a stern look, but instead, physical pain. That's a secret that makes sure that the attention is on the soldier's ability to look smart. But this next crazy feature is one that does the exact opposite. It makes the subject in hand almost entirely invisible. You might be wondering exactly how that's possible, but the trick is all in some very special patented technology. Created by the tech geniuses at BAE Systems, this new Invisibility Cloak allows a vehicle to blend into its surroundings. So although you might see the vehicle at the beginning of its journey, it won't be long before you're second-guessing yourself. Known as adaptive, the patented technology is based on sheets of hexagonal pixels that can change temperature very rapidly. Onboard cameras pick up the background scenery and display that infrared image on the vehicle, allowing even a moving tank to match its surroundings. Alternatively, it can mimic another vehicle or display identification tags. The JF-17 Thunder Fighter bomber might look like any other piece of military equipment, but there's far more to this bomber than meets the eye. This low-cost, single-engine, multi-role fighter has an extensive suite of features surpassing most modern fighters. These include a fly-by-wire control system, pulse Doppler radar for detection and air-to-air engagement, as well as in-flight refueling capability. But that's just the start of this weapon. The JF-17 also has 5 weapons hardpoints that can carry a total of 8,000 pounds of fuel, equipment, or munitions. Then there's the laser designator for ground attack, an advanced defensive countermeasures suite, and an ergonomic cockpit featuring a heads-up display and full-color digital displays. And the impressively crazy features of the JF-17 never seem to end. This is certainly one weapon that is far more powerful than it lets on. In time, the JF-17 could be equipped with the Chinese PL-12 active radar homing missile. Let's talk about another missile that has a very special feature you probably won't ever see replicated again. That's right, we're talking about the bizarre World War II invention of British Frederick Skinner, otherwise known as Pigeon-guided missiles. The US Navy was in need of a weapon capable of countering the formidable German Bismarck-class battleships, but couldn't find a missile that did the job. So British decided to train pigeons to guide the missiles for him from an A to B. His idea sounded simple. He would train pigeons to guide the missiles, tapping a target on a screen with their beaks to control the direction. Believe it or not, but this was actually an idea that the government got behind with funding. The National Defense Research Committee contributed $25,000 to the cause. Impressively, the pigeons did their job until October 8, 1944, when the program was discontinued. If you happen to find yourself in Israel and surrounded by military soldiers or equipment, things might be worse than you think, because Israel has become the first country in the world to use unmanned ground vehicles, or UGVs, to not only patrol its borders, but also to replace soldiers on missions as well. Which means that any terrifying looking vehicles you see lurking at the border might not have a soldier inside, but actually a robot. The new border patroller model can be armed with remote-controlled weapons, reconnaissance means, and additional components to ensure top-notch security. The robot is also able to patrol underground and gather information for units that are present on the surface. For example, it can help soldiers avoid booby-trapped tunnels. While all of this might sound beneficial to the Israeli military, it might be a scarier prospect for anyone up against them. Israel isn't the only place using robots for defense purposes. Have you heard of Big Dog? We're not talking about the huge cuddly creature in your backyard, but instead, a new military device that has more power than we really think is necessary. Big Dog is a robot canine developed by Boston Dynamics. First introduced in 1992, he's been modified over the years to become a remarkably sophisticated machine. Not only is this creature incredibly creepy looking, but it's also able to take on many uses to help the military as well as moral support. Big Dog was designed to be a pack mule for soldiers, capable of carrying 340 pounds, climbing 35-degree inclines, and no doubt striking fear into the heart of the opposition. This large, rough terrain robot shambles slowly up rocky terrain while carrying heavy loads, and is currently being tested in Afghanistan. Our next crazy military equipment feature is one that you might recognize from your favorite video game, and it involves lasers. We're talking about a weapon that shoots laser-guided lightning bolts. The laser-induced plasma channel, LIPC, can be used to destroy anything that conducts electricity better than the air or ground surrounding it, and doesn't take more than some basic physics to spring into action. It might look like nothing more than a powerful stick, but this weapon actually uses a laser to carve an electromagnetic path through the air that accommodates a high-voltage beam. If that pulse is strong enough, it actually creates an electromagnetic field around itself that's so powerful it strips electrons from air molecules, essentially creating a channel of plasma through the air. Up next is a weapon that might be banned in the USA but is still being developed worldwide. Until the mid-1990s, the US Air Force openly funded research on how to seriously hurt humans at a distance with lasers. Even though the open research was stopped, eye-blinding rifle research was continued. And that's another weapon that's exactly what it sounds like. A 2010 report found that British soldiers were using something called Dazzlers against fighters in remote parts of Afghanistan. These weapons, which might look like standard guns, had the ability to temporarily stun, or dazzle, the eye with a glare. With an effective range of nearly 1,000 feet, glow is intended to be used to stop suspicious characters from approaching a military checkpoint. The developers of the Dazzler systems seem to be tiptoeing closer and closer to the line that defines what is a banned weapon and what is not, and their products are becoming more and more readily available. Let's move back to some truly crazy features, because clearly the military has no limits when it comes to thinking outside of the box. And that includes using chickens in their weapons. That is right. At one point in history, the British military developed a chicken-heated nuclear bomb. In July 1957, the British Army Council ordered 10 Blue Peacock nuclear landmines. These might have looked like regular bombs from the outside, but what was hiding inside was something far stranger. Experts realized that the components had to be kept a certain temperature, and so decided to place a coop filled with chickens and seed inside the bomb before deploying it. The chickens could survive in such conditions for at least a week, plenty of time for enemy troops to approach after the nuke was deployed. Perhaps unsurprisingly, in February 1958, the MOD Weapons Policy Committee scrapped the project. And if you thought that was bad, well, wait until you've heard about Soviet attack dolphins. The military has been using mammals for at least 6 years now, since 2013, in various methods of attack. Now, since 2012, the Ukrainian Navy decided to reinstitute a Soviet-era dolphin training program. Specifically, according to reports, the dolphins had pistols and knives strapped to their heads and were taught to use them. While Ukraine's defense ministry denied the reports, it made the press and opened up various other stories of militaries across the world using dolphins to service the army. For example, dolphins employed by the US Navy used to sweep for mines under the water, preventing any human soldiers from coming to harm. Have you had enough of animal-based weapons yet? We've got a few more up our sleeves, but we'll give you a break for now and move on to something that's far more sinister than it initially looked. Let's talk about pressure waves. Thor has to move over for this one because it's clear that the military is taking control when it comes to pulsed energy projectiles. The pulsed energy projectile is yet another non-lethal weapon under development by the US military. The goal? Fire a laser at people to create a little pocket of exploding plasma in the air around them. This would hypothetically create a pressure wave to knock out the person while also producing painful nerve sensations. There are plenty of military submarines dotted around, and they each have their own unique set of features to ensure that they do their job to the best ability. But there's not one that's quite like USS Jimmy Carter, and we don't imagine a similar one will ever be created. This piece of military equipment is unique for a very good reason. On January 20th, 2013, the Seawolf-class attack submarine USS Jimmy Carter left her home port in Bangor, Washington. Less than 2 months later, the submarine appeared at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii for repairs. The Navy kept the mission of this particular submarine very, very quiet, and refused to open up about its real design. There's not much we can tell you about this particular piece of equipment, other than the fact that we're still getting to the bottom of it now. HAARP stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, which should give you a slight hint into our next crazy military feature. This electric harp has been assembled on a military base near Gakona, Alaska, by the United States Air Force and Navy. It has several parts, the most interesting being the IRI, for Ionospheric Research Instrument. IRI is one of the largest radio transmitters ever built. It might look just like a radio, but its effect is so much stronger than just that. Harp's ability to generate strong magnetic fields could interfere with the migration of birds, marine, and Arctic animals that are known to go onto the Earth's magnetic fields to navigate over long distances. We're sure that gives you a bit of insight into the dangers of this thing. Bat bombs were an experimental World War II weapon developed by the United States, which might sound like a crazy idea, but was actually something that made it through various rounds of funding. It consisted of a traditional bomb-shaped casing with more than 1,000 different compartments. Crucially, each of them contained a hibernating Mexican free-tailed bat with a small timed incendiary bomb attached. In the Second World War, the US military had an idea to destroy Japan with these unusual bat bombs, and it even came with its own specific name, Project X-Ray. It was a tricky project. The bombs had to be light enough for the bats to carry, and they couldn't contain reagents like phosphorus that reacted with oxygen because their bat carriers had to be able to breathe. The whole thing weighed 17 grams and dangled from a string. Our last crazy military feature is one that sounds especially innocuous: vitamins. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency in the USA has long been working on projects to make soldiers unkillable, and vitamins that would prevent them from coming to too much harm would do exactly that job. Their aim was to make soldiers more able to survive assaults, maintain endurance for long periods, and withstand extreme environmental challenges. As it stands, humans can't currently travel for days without stopping, survive underwater with little oxygen, or recover from radioactive or chemical weapons without getting sick. The goal was to armor the individual soldier both internally and psychologically through new forms of biomedicine and biotechnology. Those vitamins haven't gotten much further yet, but who knows what could happen eventually. That's all for 15 crazy features hidden in military equipments. Which of these hidden features surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And make sure to like this video, subscribe to The Richest, and join our notification squad. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.